Hello and welcome. My name is Sendra D. I am the founder of Sendor Capital Limited and Sendor TV. Welcome for the first part of the interview with Father Marc Vernoy. This will be a two-part interview where Father Vernoy and I speak for 45 minutes, and it is follow-up the next week with a second interview of also 45 minutes. So please enjoy the first segment. Well, hello everyone. Welcome to another wonderful episode of Frankly Speaking with Sendra D. Today I have with me Father Marc Vernoy. Welcome, Father Vernoy.
Thank you.
Well, I always try to surprise you with my guests, and I have, I think I've surpassed myself in trying to exceed your expectations. Father Vernoy is a Catholic priest, and he grew up in Normandy, France, a few miles away from Lisieux, home of the Little Flower. He is the eldest of 4 children to very generous and hardworking Catholic parents. From a very young age, he enjoyed attending the Mass of the retired Archpriest Thomas, who had married his parents and who baptized him. After the death of the faithful Archpriest, Father Vernoy was guided on his spiritual journey by Reverend Father Quentin Montgomery Wright, one of the very first priests to support Archbishop Marcel Lefebvre. After graduating from business school in Paris in 1988 and performing military service in Germany, Father Vernoy entered seminary in Econe, Switzerland. He was ordained on June 29th, 1995, and then was assigned to India, where he served first as assistant priest and later as prior. His apostolate covered all of Asia, focusing especially on the Philippines. After his assignment in Asia, Father served as prior in principle in Languedoc-Roussillon in the south of France, then as the first SSPX District Superior for all of Africa. Father founded SSPX Priory in Florida on September 15, 2010, the Feast of Our Lady of the Seven Sorrows. In 2011, he started St. Thomas More Academy and is its principal. Father Vernoy is now an American citizen and loves his apostolate in the state where the first Mass was offered on the North American continent. In your own words, summarize what I've just said about you, who you are, what led you, what has been your journey to this point, because I want my audience to know the emotions that took place, what you felt as a result of making this radical decision, going to business school. I'm a business major. I actually considered becoming a minister as well. I now know that I'm best suited for what I'm doing now, but I want you to tell me what inspired you. I know we read about that, but I want you to tell me personally.
It's one of the most important questions in life is who we are. It's the big question of most people today. That's why most people are not so happy in their life, because they don't know who they are. Why they don't know who they are? Because the family didn't do their work, because they don't know they don't want to know who they are. They don't want to accept who they are. Maybe we are what we received from our family, our masters, the country, the place where we lived. We didn't come out of nothing. And when you start to accept your story, the story of your parents, grandparents, your family, you love your family name, your religion, the master who formed you, you recognize this gift, you accept it, you love it, and it is who you are, and you have the vision of your life, you know where you go. This is what is making you strong. Mm-hmm. Because it's true, it starts with the story of love.
Absolutely.
It's a story of love. This is the gospel, it's our Lord. We need to first love God and we love our neighbor as we love ourselves.
Absolutely.
If you don't love yourself, you cannot love.
Absolutely.
You cannot even love God. You cannot love your neighbor because you don't love
Yourself.
yourself, and you little by little, you even lose the ability to love,
Right.
which is the disease of our time.
Absolutely.
The
So,
big disease. Then it's a story. It's true that lots of causes make me a priest. The main cause is God, and quite early, I think I was 13, I had the clear idea I had to be a priest.
13.
Yeah.
Interesting. Fascinating. So when most people as teenagers are planning their outings, Father Vernoy was planning how to enter the Catholic priesthood. That's fascinating. So did your parents encourage you? Did you share that idea
Oh,
with
they did
your
everything
family?
to put obstacles.
Your parents did not?
And I bless them because I had to fight. I mean, this is good because you come to do yourself even better when you have to fight for your vision, for the goal. And I had to accept to make some studies because they didn't want me to enter the seminary without knowing the world and having no professional experience. And that's why I went to this business school. I had in French we call the préparation HEC, which is the big year to prepare for, and it's a big competition to get a place.
Is it similar to, is it the undergraduate or is it the graduate level?
It's not college. It's all private schools, but you have preparation, and then you need to. There is a concourse, there is a competition, and usually for one school you have 100 places for 10,000 competitors.
My goodness.
And I entered one of these schools. I knew it was not my life, but I did it the best I could, and I benefited a lot from this experience. And it's still, I use it even today. Even yesterday I did things, and this formation helped me a lot. That's why I thank my parents for that, even the obstacle they put between me and my vocation. I think it was very good. It was a very good move from them not to make things too easy for me. Then I did also specialty in this school because I didn't want to lose my time only with numbers, etc. To run cultural businesses. It means like big libraries, lyrical theaters, things like that. And I did my 3 last months as a professional experience in the Théâtre des Champs-Élysées in Paris, which was a very, very interesting experience.
So all that, still you have one goal, which is to become a priest.
Oh yeah.
One goal.
Yes.
My goodness. This is different because usually you hear people say, well, my parents encouraged me, but it was the contrary. So you have siblings. Did you share this dream or this idea with your siblings that you wanted to do this? Did your siblings, were they for it or against it or neutral? They just...
I think the siblings were for it. And now the family is extremely happy about what I did, what I could achieve after the call of God and all the graces I received. They could recognize that. They could see very clearly this all the blessings. This also all the crosses I had to go through because the priestly life, especially nowadays, is not an easy life.
Absolutely.
It's not an easy life at all. But no. And after I had the military service, that was a requirement in France, and it was also a great blessing for me.
So where did you serve in the military?
I was in the cavalry in Germany, and mainly the training of new soldiers, which was very, very interesting.
So you ended up having to, you started pretty much your training to become a priest, because as a trainer, you listened to a lot of people's situations and problems. They came to you, you became their confidant.
I knew a lot of things because in France, the society still was, at least at that time, still quite open, and you could reach any part of the population quite easily. But the military, you reach even a wider range of people.
So it's
especially the place I was, this regiment was semi-disciplinary, you see, and you had 2/3 of the soldiers were just going out of prison.
My goodness.
Drug dealers, bank robbers, everything.
Oh my goodness. So this must have opened your heart even more. You had a predisposition to become a priest, and here you are, managing a group of people who had been pretty much rejected by society because of some of past actions. And so you had to handle them with care, in order to build a relationship with them. So that's true leadership. So you were being prepared for even a grander role. At the time, did you understand that? That's what it was preparing you for?
I see it now. But when you do it, you just do it. I had lots of other experience in my youth that I see it helped a lot. I could visit Lebanon during the war to help the Christians during the war in 1986. It was a very, very interesting experience to know what is the war, to be in the middle of bombings, there are the things that most people will never know in their life. And I think all these experiences, you just collect them one after the other. You try not to miss any good experience you can get when you are young. This is what I didn't know. It was coming to me and I took them, that's all.
Oh, that's fascinating. So I have I went to Catholic school. Growing up in Haiti, I guess the best educations come from the Catholic Church. So I want to thank you for that education. It is because of that education I'm here. So I'm very grateful. But I have to say, I was a bit surprised when you agreed to do this interview with me, because the nuns frightened me. I was very chatty. For those of you who went to school with me, you remember they had a rule that if you're caught not gossiping, but just talking in class, they put you out. And I was the one always put out the class. How I managed to always be one of the first in class, I don't know, but I chatted a lot. So the nuns were always telling my parents, she just can't stop talking. So that experience led me to this, because I realized I needed to find things to help me to channel this urge to speak. But you seem so friendly, so easygoing. I'm so grateful. And, I was afraid to even ask you to do the show, because the nuns, I remember, are very different, because I had to rehearse what I was going to say to them every time. But so you seem to be a very new generation of priests, because this is definitely not the traditional way of, conducting or being a priest. What led you to become more of a visionary for the Catholic Church? Because this is not how you're guided to interact with the public.
I'm not the visionary. The visionary was our founder. He had this vision of the Catholic Church. He was part of the Council of Vatican II, and he was fighting to keep all the things that were giving this energy to the Catholic Church, which is mainly a missionary energy. And he was fighting against several things in this council that were putting down this missionary energy. We kept this legacy of the mission through our founder. He was the head of the biggest missionary congregation in the Catholic Church.
What's his name?
The Holy Ghost Fathers, Archbishop Lefebvre.
Yes.
He was the head, the delegate of the Pope for all Western Africa. He had a very, very, very big position in the church. But after the council, he was put aside because he was not according to the new mainstream of the church. And he just kept all the big traditions, liturgical, catechism, theology. We are very old-fashioned people. Mm-hmm. It means also out-fashioned. Mm. And we are always new. Mm-hmm. Because when you're not after fashion, you cannot lose anything. we are always the same. It's true that we have to adapt to the times and the speech we have to give, the attitude we have to give. We need more and more mercy towards people today because a lot of people suffered as perhaps never people suffered in mankind. It's a spiritual sorrow. It can be absolutely terrible. It's close to the punishment of hell. This feeling of loneliness and hopelessness. This is exactly what is hell.
Absolutely.
You're alone, you have no friend, yet there is no love and there is no hope.
Absolutely.
And so many people are suffering these things today, and we are here to help them and to show them that there is a vision in life, there is hope, there is love, there is joy. We just have to open our eyes to recognize who we are. And again, it's back to what you were asking, just to love first who we are.
Absolutely. So this deep awareness that you seem to have about the affliction of mankind, was that at 13 years old? This is what you felt. You just saw it all around you. So you just knew that you wanted to be part of the solution, it sounds to me. And so that just one thing after another just led you to that.
I am in a generation when the Western civilization was really falling apart. It's completely down today. All the big structure of Western civilization, Christian civilization, today is down. We have to rebuild according to what we have today, who we are today. We don't have always to copy everything as it was before. We just have to follow the gospel. We have to follow the voice of our Lord Jesus Christ to build something that is good for men today. But it's true that in this trend, you can lose hope, you can lose your love for this civilization, and just go to your self-centeredness.
Absolutely. Selfishness.
Your own little feelings, emotions,
desires, passions.
And you stop thinking, and you give up, you leave it.
Absolutely. So, it sounds to me that, you had a strong foundation, a religious foundation in Catholic Church in France, but it also took you all over the world. So what was your first experience outside of France like as a priest? Because you didn't come directly to the United States. Where did you first serve? When did you leave France?
My very first apostolate as a cleric, you do several things when you're a seminarian, but seriously, was to give Ignatian retreats in Lebanon. I took a summer and went there just to preach spiritual retreats to young Lebanese people, and it went very well. It was very, very interesting. We were the first priests to enter the Bekaa Valley and Baalbek. Mm-hmm. That was it was 1994, mm-hmm. and the beginning of the reopening of this place that was completely in the hands of the Hezbollah. Very interesting.
Very interesting indeed. Very interesting.
It was my first experience really in the apostolate, and 1 year after, I was ordained a priest, and then sent directly to India, mm-hmm. South India, Tamil Nadu, and it was a.
Is that near Goa?
No, Goa is in the north. It's you have Bombay. It's a bit south of Bombay.
Because I know Goa tends to be a little bit more Christian.
Oh yes, it's 80%.
Yeah, so that's why I asked. So where you were was not necessarily Christian.
No. Yes, Tamil Nadu is 10% Catholic people.
So
India is 1.5% Catholic.
My goodness. So what was that like? Your first, post in a country that's not necessarily predominantly Christian.
First, you have to adapt and live the life of the people, because there is no other choice. If you're not ready to just live this life, you better go back home. And this is the way to be accepted by people. After, there is the question of language, which is a big question there. Tamil is a very difficult language with signs that are completely different, and the way of speaking also. to use your tongue, to use your mouth, etc. But I was a young priest. It was a tough life because India won't accept missionaries.
Interesting.
Then we were like students. I was going to the university to learn Tamil. And in the university, in the beginning, I had no contact, nobody. And very quickly, I had young people coming to serve my mass. The first one is now a priest. He was coming to serve my mass every day, and this helped me a lot because you're just a young priest, and you ask the question. Well, I'm in this university during the week. I don't do the priestly work as I should do, and I don't have all the relation with my community as I should have, and it was a bit tough. And on the second year, I was 1 year just after I was put as the superior of the place, and sent after just after the Philippines. But yes, it was also to me a great experience regarding the real poverty.
Sure. Yes, I've been to India. I know what you mean, but I'm from Haiti as well. You see it there.
Yeah, but in India, you have still also.
Of course, you have different layers.
The caste system, which is absolutely terrible.
Yes,
absolutely terrible. And after the Philippines was the same. You have, and it's very different poverty.
Yeah.
Because in India, people won't help each other as they will help each other in the Philippines.
Correct, because the caste system.
And in the Philippines, there is no barrier of caste. I could see very rich people going to the slum and helping people. I could see a very rich woman, high society, dancing with a very poor man.
This is in Philippines.
Just, but in both places, it's clearer in the Catholic atmosphere like the Philippines. You can make very popular people happy quite easily.
Absolutely. They don't need much to be happy.
No.
It's the capitalist system, which I'm a capitalist, that tells you, consumerism is the way to happiness. So you buy more, you get a little bit more happy. Especially people are now looking forward to Christmas because this is the season to be happy. And what better way to happiness around Christmas than to buy presents? But I want to ask you, as a young, early priest, and you had to travel all these different places. And so I'm going to ask you a very candid question now. So did you at any point want to leave the priesthood? Did you ever fall in love? Because I knew at that stage of my life, I was falling in love. Or maybe not, they were falling in love with me, whichever way. Depends on who's listening.
I think when you,
so did you have that?
When you have a strong vocation, a strong vision, it's a very good question because it was asked. I will tell you the story. It's a very interesting question. I never had any doubts, ever. Even before being a priest, it was in my life. I knew it was. And I had no real other choice. I knew it very deep in my heart. It's my life, and it would be ridiculous to deny it afterwards with little. I don't think I ever had any temptation to do something else. But the question was asked
to get married, form a family. That was never
no, because you see, I think it's more difficult for a sister to be a sister than for a priest to be a father.
Mm-hmm.
To give up maternity is something very, very heavy and difficult. We don't give up fatherhood.
Well, in this day and age, we that's happening now. But that's another conversation. Men will eventually be able to have babies, but that's another conversation for another day. You can edit that out if you want. But
we are even more fathers. We have to lead people to our Lord Jesus Christ, to God.
Sure.
We have to bring people to heaven, to give them all the means to go there. And it's such a great mission. And it's true, it's love and love and love and love to help them to not to depart from their own vocation. No, the question was asked, and the exact same question. In India first, I was a young priest, and a young Muslim, Father, how can you be like that without a wife? It's impossible. it's impossible to be without a wife. I told him, you're right. It's not normal, it's not natural to be without a wife. But with the grace of God, with the vocation, with this call, I have all the blessing and the graces necessary to live this life.
So you never felt that sense of lack that most people do feel if they can't have a child, they can't find a partner.
He could not understand it. And the very same question was asked to me by another Muslim. It was in France, in the south of France. The exact same question. Oh, you should hide somewhere a little wife or something like that.
Well, that's the Muslim. I'm not saying all Muslims do that, but there are sort of loopholes in the Muslim tradition that you can have multiple wives. So the idea that you have no wife is quite difficult to accept.
You see, when they see that, they don't understand that they have respect.
Of course.
It was quite interesting.
I'm sure.
It's a very good question because you see, if you lose your vision, the goal of your life, if it's not as clear, and it will be your fault if it's not that clear, always.
Absolutely.
We have our crosses of difficulties, but we have always all the crosses to face all these things and to overcome all these things. That I believe strongly. In my life, I had to suffer quite a lot in many ways.
You say that, but you don't give details. Can you provide us with what kind of suffering that? Because sometimes I think that living. I've gone off to spiritual retreat centers, and I isolate from the world, and I actually do not miss the world, and it's re-entering into the world that is challenging for me. But for you, you have an advantage because you have minimal contact with the world, because there are some humans out there that make the world a little crazy.
There's two main ways to suffer as a priest. It's the distrust of your own people, and you don't know why.
The own people, meaning
Distrust.
the humans in general,
Yeah.
or just the Catholic Church.
Even among your faithful, some people,
Your parishioners.
the devil is always around trying to divide. It's his business to break the peace. And there is another way for a priest to suffer, is not to be misunderstood, misjudged by his own superiors.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, which brings me, this is something that I've always wanted to have a conversation about. To be more focused, I want to change this to a more focused, direct conversation about the Catholic Church. You talk about your superiors, and you talk about your parishioners. Okay, so there seems to be a lot of, bringing this conversation back or more focused to the Catholic Church. As you talked about, there are two sides. There are, of course, the Catholic Church consists of the leaders of the church and the congregation of the church, the parishioners, those who have committed to the church, who have entrusted the church with their children, with themselves, on how to navigate this world. And they depend on the Catholic teachings to give them the guidance necessary when they're going through a difficult time. So some of these congregants have accused the church of abuse of power, in the sense that the abuse has come in the form of sort of the physical abuse or just emotional abuse. I personally don't have any evidence of that. I do not have any. I've never been witness to it. I've been to Catholic Church, but those are the headlines. I would like you to tell me in the audience how you, as a passionate, purposeful priest, manage to overcome these sort of these talking points or these experiences that others were having. You were not, as a leader, you were not having that experience, as your congregation possibly was having it. But how did you come across, and when your superiors also were being under attack? These are people you looked up to. Can you tell us a little bit how that felt and how you managed to stay focused on what your purpose was?
I think the first point is there is the noise, there's a lot of things going on, but there is the root of the problem. The first root of the problem is we are human beings.
Right.
And even if we are baptized, there is still the burden of all these wounds due to the original sin. We are not perfect. We have to watch after ourselves. We have to ask the graces of God to do good every day. And if you don't focus on this first thing, if you depart from the presence of God in your life, then you're left alone and you start to do ill things. And the big problem in the Catholic Church is that with the Council, Vatican II, it didn't come just like that. It after some previous failures, the Church started, at least some people in the Church started to focus more on how to please the world than how to please God.
Interesting.
And when it starts to be confused, your mission is not so clear. And little by little, you depart from the vision, the why you became a priest, the why you gave all your life to God. Everything is much more difficult when you lose the vision, when it's not so clear. And you can fall into many traps. And usually you go to the easy traps. You're trapped. Most of these failures, they didn't choose it. They've just failed after betrayals that were not so big in the beginning, and after you don't see anymore how bad it is because you're used to it.
Father Vernoy, thank you again for agreeing to this interview. This is also fascinating. I never thought I could actually get on camera such a candid and frank conversation with a Catholic priest. And so my prayers has been answered. I had to do a lot of forgiveness work around the Catholic Church as well, because, of course, though I did not have direct experience, like you, I feel so deeply for humanity. And when you see something transpiring, such as the allegations and some stories that are told around the abuse, you kind of wonder what else, But again, I accept the fact that one person does something doesn't necessarily negate the whole system. When I was growing up, I want to say that I was very grateful to the Catholic Church because all the films that came out around the saints, the stories of the saints, I can't recall their names, you probably could. The Catholic Church was a healing system. Yeah. The Catholic Church, we knew in Haiti, I remember getting dressed on Friday night to go to a cinema where they were playing these stories of the saint, or tell me some of the saints that they had.
Saint Vincent de Paul, Saint Teresa of the Church.
Absolutely. And even, the sites, of the churches, it's miracles have happened. And that's how I knew the Catholic Church. So tell me what happened from that, you're a business person, the brand, the Catholic Church being a healing system to a broken or to a abusive system. Because a lot of people think of it that way now. So if you could tell me what happened between those two.
I think we need to open our sight. It's not only the Catholic Church, it's the whole Western world, which is little by little became a godless world and a fatherless world. And if you lose this authority, this guidance, if you deny any guidance in your life, then you're lost. And you're just left to yourself, to your own little poor experience. And this is what happened with the bad news regarding some clerics. But it's not only that, it's the whole situation in the Catholic Church, which is coming from the teaching of the Church. If you don't give a clear teaching, it's not politically correct at all. The Catholic Church is not politically correct. If it becomes politically correct, it's finished. It's no more the Catholic Church.
On that topic of politics.
And look, how is it possible today? You have people, they say they are Catholics. They are running in the politics, and therefore abortion.
Exactly.
there is a big contradiction, and they cannot see this contradiction.
So I want to...
Because they lost the vision.
They lost the vision.
They lost
the purpose, the teachings. So it's just a label at this point. It becomes just an empty label of being a Catholic.
Yeah, it's just...
So just like this country says it's a Christian country, I don't believe that it's a Christian country anymore, because if it was, we wouldn't see what we're seeing now.
No.
So I want to leave on the topic of politics. So, it's the Catholic Church has become a bit more political. You have a Pope in the Vatican that has opinions on many topics. Climate change is one of them. The wall is another. It seems that he's very clear that the President of the United States is not following his agenda. So can you talk a little bit about that? I mean, I have loved Catholic popes ever since I was a little girl, and I remember waking up on Sunday mornings and watching, maybe not when I was a little girl, but as a young adult, just to think about it, we even have television. But yes, as a young adult, watching Sunday Mass, I'm not so inspired anymore. So what do you say to other Catholics who are saying, we don't want to hear about your politics, we want to hear about God?
What we expect from the Pope at the political level is to fight for Christ the King.
Right.
That Christ is guiding our lives, not only in the church, but in the world. And if you put your nose only on details, I don't say that details are not important, but you lose the big picture. And the big problem today for most people, the speech of the Pope is confusing.
Completely.
Because Christ is absent.
Absolutely.
And it's all about details.
And it seems
and there is no more big picture.
It is.
And the big picture for us is to be one with Christ.
Absolutely.
And to go to heaven.
Absolutely.
This is a big picture.
And it seems to he's more interested in some mundane issues versus a spiritual mission.
Yeah, I don't. I'm not here to challenge.
No challenge. No one is challenging.
But I have no problem to challenge all these things. I'm sorry. The countries, they are free to decide
Absolutely.
what is the best for their people.
Absolutely.
And as long as it's not against the spiritual life of people, against their liberty to worship, let them free.
Absolutely.
If they want to work better on the good of their own people and avoid to have too many people entering the country, even illegally, etc., it's their liberty. You cannot challenge. What is wrong with that? The Catholic Church recognizes the dominion, the independence, the authority of countries.
Sure. So the follow-up question is, so there is a rumor that there's something called a deep church. So the deep church, in my understanding, is something that is acting behind the church itself. People who are not elected pope, people who are pretty much bureaucrats that have been functioning in the church in the same role for some times and control everything. Is there any truth to that?
It's everywhere in the Western society. There is a deep system that cannot be challenged. It's kind of connections. They are connected through many means. Sometimes it's money, there is power. Sometimes there is bad life. And people are connected and they owe each other something. And in some ways they are not really free between themselves. In the church, there is a kind of Freemasonry. Really?
You've heard it first here on Frankly Speaking with Sendra D. I love what I do. Thank you so much. So now, tell me more about the system underneath the church, the Freemasonry that you're referring to. I've watched documentaries about that, but now I get it. I'm getting firsthand.
We know very well that you have very high-ranking people in the church, bishops, cardinals, who are part of the Freemasonry. In the church, you cannot be a Catholic and Freemason.
You can't. That's God or man.
You cannot. But we have. And when you hear some bishops, even cardinals, even in this country, their speech is exactly the speech of the Freemasonry, but not the speech of a Catholic bishop.
So these are the people who are pretty much controlling more of a deeper political agenda.
Yeah.
Would you say?
Yeah, it's a kind of mafia. They know each other. You had the mafia of McCarrick in the Catholic Church in America.
Mm-hmm.
He had all his connections, and he knew people through his own ways, etc. A lot of money, a lot of power. They have their own agenda. We were speaking about agenda. What we expect from the Pope, from the cardinals, the bishops, is not their own agenda.
Absolutely.
They have to fight for Christ the King.
Absolutely.
For Lord Jesus Christ.
Well,
That's all.
Absolutely. And the thing is, Father Vernoy, is when we look to this, the symbol, the Pope, what he represents, we want more spirituality. If what he's saying is what he's going to preach, I can turn on any news channel to get the same opinions. Any political, analyst can give me, his views, and I don't have to go to the Vatican for that. And the thing is, do you feel that the Vatican, when Ronald Reagan made the Vatican an independent nation, do you think that's when it all started? Did it make it worse or better when it became completely its own sustainable system?
The Vatican, in fact, the Church has to be independent. That's why all the time the popes, they try to do, not to be under any...
Okay, so the churches have to be independent, and you have to, when there is something that comes from the Vatican, how do you keep your autonomy from, for instance, there were, rumors. Again, I say rumors because I don't go deep into these stories. You see the headline that the Pope was not coming forth because some people had been accused of certain actions, but he's not being firm and decisive about the consequences that these people are going to, suffer as a result of these allegations against them. The abuse of the children, etc. So the Pope seemed to be a little bit more tolerant than the public would have liked or the congregation would have liked. So how do you maintain your autonomy through something like that?
In fact, there is two problems. That this big sickness in the church today, and this lack of clarity, this big confusion everywhere, confusion of the minds, the spirits, the lack of intelligence, and doesn't help to clean anything and to have a clear vision about what's going on and what decision to take and how to clean the place. After the necessity of independence, it's another subject. The church always fought to not to be under any other political power, so that the doctrine remain absolutely according to the will of God. There is no worldly influence. You don't see that with the other religion.
Right.
There is always distortion, changes, move. Even the Orthodox, they are very linked with the political powers, and it can even affect the dogma, the doctrine of the church itself.
Sure.
And this is the big was to keep safe from any worldly influence. Unfortunately, when you have worldly people inside the church, we have the result we have today.
Absolutely. And the thing is, you speak about other churches and other systems in England, of course, the Church of England. The Queen is over. How can you have, all right, so how can you have someone who's not trained in the church to oversee the church? I've never understood that. So, when you talk about the mundane infiltrating the church, I do believe that takes a toll on the church. I agree. When you have this purity of mind that is required, then everything functions in a harmony. So again, I want to thank you for being so honest with me, and these are questions that the audience will also be very grateful for you answering. And so, we talk about the politics and the political climate, the global, right now, not just because of the elections coming up in November, but what's happening around the world. We have headlines such as, the talking points are, we've got climate change, we have Black Lives Matter, we have defund the police, and you and I shared some time at the in support of the police, and I'm fully 100% behind the police, and you were there too. And so all these are politically charged. So how do you continue, again, to separate, because you have to do this, in your congregation, because you have a mix of congregants, you can have one person or, group representing one party versus another. How do you stay neutral? Because I know you have the human side that says, I have my opinions. How do you stay neutral among all of this?
I think as human beings, you cannot be neutral.
Right.
You have to make choices. You have a judgment.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of Frankly Speaking with Sendra D on Sendor TV. Please subscribe to the channel so that you can be notified when a new episode is uploaded. Also follow us on Instagram and on Facebook, and we definitely appreciate you being part of this community.